Hi, I'm Andrew Armstrong. Welcome to the back office. I have another Sinclair 128K Spectrum Plus 2, but this is a very strange one because it's grey and my one's black, so that's a bit confusing to me. This one belongs to Chinny Hill at Chinny Vision, so have a look at Chinny Vision's website and his, of course, YouTube channel where he keeps most of his excellent content. It's broken, there's something wrong with it. I've noticed it's using a different power supply than mine, so I'm going to have to look up what that is. I've already taken the screws out, so it's easy to pop the lid off, well, relatively. We'll put that aside. Interestingly, this version also seems to have a difference on the drive bay. So if you remember a previous video, I changed the belt. This one has two belts. However, it's a lot quieter. It's not making that rattly noise my one is, so not sure if that rattly noise is something mine's supposed to make or they just economised. So we'll take this PCB out, nice and easy. So the first thing to do, I might not get through debugging this unit in this episode, but what I will do is show you how to clean a PCB because it's a very dirty PCB. So the first things first you really want to do is clean it because you just have no idea if any of the errors you're seeing are caused by filth on the PCB or actually faults in the hardware. Generally, I will say though, it tends to be faults in the hardware, but you want to make it easier for yourself, and you certainly want to make sure that when you start soldering onto this, you're giving yourself the best opportunity to solder correctly. So I've got here a tin of Electrolube Flu, which is flux clean, PCB cleaning solvent. So shake it up. It's got a nice sort of spray nozzle. Get yourself some blue rags or anything like that, and a small brush. I don't really know what they call these, but they're just a very short stubby brush, very stiff bristles. So what I'm going to do is just hold the PCB at an angle, and I'm going to put a little bit of this paper right here, hold it all at an angle, and I'm just going to sort of slowly work my way around the board with this sort of brush whilst squirting them out of this as I go along, just sort of working it along the ICs, along the passive components. Take a little bit of care if there's things on a PCB that really doesn't want to get a liquid in there, like speakers. Doesn't seem to be that much on here, but you've got these sorts of adjusters and you've got this modulator, so I don't really want to fill up the TV modulator full of the cleaning liquid, but just a little squeeze. And it seems to be made out of some sort of citrusy thing. It definitely smells nice. So what this will do though is get rid of all of the filth and all the old flux, PCB gunk. If there's a soluble varnish on there, it'll get rid of that for you as well. So clear out all the bugs, all the gunk, all the dirt. And I can already see that Chinny's done a bit of work on here because there's certainly there's some solder joints there. I'm not going to say they're dry, but they certainly look drier than I would leave them. But maybe they're only temporary test fixes. So we're almost there. So that's one side done. Nice and shiny. Again, flip it over. The back is less important because the back really doesn't have any components, but it doesn't hurt. You can see I'm doing it much quicker. So this will be nice and clean when you're there, and we can then sort of just scan over the board, look for defects, issues, because we're going to have to sort of try to work out what's the most obvious thing wrong with this. And unfortunately with old electronics, it kind of could be anything really. So I'm just going to get the sort of blue paper now and just dab it. Get rid of that excess, and you don't really want to let this stuff kind of linger on your skin if you can help it. So if you've got a brush like this, and this is where your sort of stubby stiff brush comes in, but I'll show you that in a moment. Just get the paper on there, and between the brush and the PCB, keep that paper and just work it that way. And this will work it into any nooks and crannies, but not only that, any dirt on the PCB will stick to the paper. So when you take the paper off, it'll be nice and clean. And I'll just see if I can try to show you that. So you might just see here, there's some dirty brown marks and things like that. That's filth. We've got filth on there, filth. And then if you want to, you can always just give it that last little dust off. That'll help it dry. Flip it over, and now you can see you've got a very damp top board. Get another bit of paper, and I'm just going to, actually I'm going to go get another bit of paper because that was particularly filthy. I got loads of it this time. So this will take a little bit more time, so really because you want to take care, especially with all these capacitors and things like that. But if you put this over, maybe double it over, you see like these resistors here, we'll focus on these resistors here for example, we'll put that there, I'll zoom in, you can see what I'm up to, and then just work it. So using the brush again and the paper, do that, work it through, because you're not going to rely on the liquid carrying off the filth, because you know that doesn't work when you wash your car. So remember, when you take your car to the jet wash for example, it never really cleans it, you still get filth, don't you, stuck, see that? You still get dirt stuck on your car because you do need some manual agitation to occur to really get it off. That's why all the best washes are hand washes. So we're just going to do that between the chips. And this is going to take some time, so I might do a jump cut at some point, but let me just show you that. There you go. So you're going to get a lot of dirt that way, so I'm going to sort of continue with this. We'll probably do a jump cut. Okay, I know some of you will be a little bit annoyed, but I did race away. I sort of dried the board up, I soldered some power wires to the motherboard from my bench power supply, plugged in a video lead, got a video monitor running, have the regulator to hand, and just sort of scanning through. I did try firing it up, but it didn't work, but I knew it didn't work, I was told it wouldn't. But I've noticed something here, and it looks like there is a sort of previous repair here, and you can see this pin really isn't attached to the motherboard, the tracking's come off, and this pin here also isn't really attached to anything. So I'm going to start scraping away the PCB tracking material here so I can bend these legs over and try to get better solder. This pin on the top though, interestingly enough, doesn't look like there's any PCB for it to attach to, so that's probably mounted from the top. Would have been a through-hole via. So definitely a little bit of work to do, so I'm going to just start with that. In fact, I'm going to zoom in a little bit, not too much though, because it won't focus for you. Just sort of to have a look at what I'm going to try to do here. So we're going to gingerly scrape the PCB because I'm hoping to get off the varnish without damaging the tracking, and I seem to have achieved that there. So you might just see that slight shininess in there. I'm just going to grab myself another flat blade screwdriver. So looking at this one, yeah, it's partially soldered, partially not, so I'm going to do the same here. So it's going to involve scraping this. Again, the screwdriver might not be the best tool, you probably have something better. But experiment really, see what works for you. Whatever works is the right tool really. And remember, this is really thin, it's just like a copper tape at the end of the day, so you're going to be able to damage this tremendously easy. But then don't freak out about it because so I just pushed that whole component through from the top. The reason you shouldn't worry about it, because even if you damage this tracking, you can always find where it's going and put a wire from here to here anyway, so it's not a big deal. So I'm just going to bend that leg over. Again, it looks like it's putting a bit of stress on this tracking here. Yeah, but that tracking's broken, so it's all going a bit Pete Tong really. You can see why it was giving so much trouble. That's not a problem. We just got to create an anchor. So the way to create the anchor is continue with our scraping. Got some solder here. So I'm just going to tin the PCB track there and tin the other side, and I'm going to put a lovely big blob there. See, I'm letting it really settle. There we go. Gently does it. I kind of want the blob to stick. I might have put a bit too much on there. Come on, come on. Let me scrape a little bit more. So I'm just basically using the leg of the component and these sort of tracks that I've scraped off to sort of form a nice big solder blob. So mechanically it should be a little bit stronger, but the blob, there we go, finally. Just waiting for the sort of meniscus, or whatever you want to call it, of the blob to form so it can hold that there. So that's joining the leg, this track and that track together. So we have this other track there, the other leg for that component. So I'm going to tin that track that we had in there, and I'm just going to bend over that leg It's a little bit on the long side, but I think it's okay. It's not going to short to anything else. I'm just going to bend it over. You can see I'm applying heat while I'm bending it because it has got solder on it. The chances are it could just snap. Yeah, that looks pretty good. And just to sort of validate what we've just done with that particular component, I can put the multimeter on continuity. You can hear it there, and I'm going to touch it onto that leg, and I'm going to touch it where that track goes, which is over here. You can hear it beeping, so that's good. Same with this one. Beeping there, and I'm just going to follow where it's going over here. There we go. So those two are good. So there's just that one mystery leg that sort of just seems to be floating. I'm not going to trim it. I do want to trim it to avoid shorting, but I'm not going to trim it just yet because I want to see what it's up to. And that appears to be this third leg on this sort of transistory thing here. So what I am going to do is I'm going to hold it here so it doesn't sort of put too much strain on legs, and I want to bend it over so I can see it. There we go. See, it's all bent over now. We're not going to bend it back, we're going to leave it bent back like that, and just check out the PCB where it's soldered. And so basically it's had the same sort of operation we did on the bottom on the top here, so you can see it had a bit of a blob put on, but I'm just going to clear off more varnish again. See that little shiny bit there, and I'm just going to run in and just run another blob right up the edge of that, trying to avoid all these other components as well while I'm at it. There we go. That's not going nowhere. That's not going nowhere. So that means really on the bottom it doesn't look like it was ever actually connected to anything. It was just a floating sort of through hole here. So find my side cutters and let's just trim that leg off. We don't want that shorting on anything. It doesn't serve a purpose anymore, so that's not going to affect anything there. Brilliant. So I'm just going to flip it over, and I could briefly apply power. I've got a monitor to the side of me you can't see, but just to let you know, so the power comes in and goes through this voltage regulator that gives a 5-volt regulator supply to everything else. So if you plug the tape drive in when this is running, you'll see the tape drive will work, the light will come on as expected, things like that, so that's good. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything when I apply power sort of out of the monitor signal, but that's fine, because you know that's the first thing I've noticed really. There could be quite a lot more. Oh, hang on a minute, there's top tracking on that component as well, this one. Let's just check the top tracks. Alright, so that's a good gotcha. We soldered it from the bottom, but remember it's damaged also from the top. Yep, that's good. So we want to make sure, where's that middle one going? We want to make sure that any sort of wires, here we go, are good too. So actually I'm just going to touch those again on the top slightly, because I could see that it's looking a bit dry. It's just, although they are making contact now, we want to make sure that they sort of continue to make contact forever. Good. So let's have another looky look, see if there's anything we can see that we're a bit apprehensive about. Move it into your field of vision. So just start with a sort of, you know, decide on what process you're going to use. If you're going to start in the sort of bottom right, bottom left, whatever, it doesn't matter, but just work your way through. So I see a lot of memory chips here and a lot of kind of, again, dry looking ones here. Interestingly, there's been a couple of swap outs. So these ones have been swapped out. So I think Chinny's been working on them. I'm not going to on the side I've got my continuity test. I'm going to just probe a couple of them because I don't know. They look like tin through hole wires, so they shouldn't be even if they're kind of dry and not soldered all the way through. As long as they're touching, they should be all right. So they're okay. I'm just going to look for any obvious components that have been replaced other than that one, because that's sort of a dead cert. Yeah, we do have this one here in this corner too. Let's just sort of zoom in on that one. So you can see that right there. It's this sort of 27, I want to say. Again, it looks like it's kind of been drilled out and poked through. I'm not going to check the bottom just yet. I'm just going to get rid of this regulator. And let's just probe the top for dryness. We want to make sure it's not dry. And it is. Right, so there was one piece of tracking where it does need to connect on the top that is dry, so that's not a good sign. I'm going to flip it over now. Let's just see how that connects underneath. Oh, hang on. I think I'm losing my marbles. Look, that was the one that we were working on. That's the one we're working on. That other component is something else. So funnily enough, when we were working on this, I thought I was working on the bottom of the other one, but no, it's this one. So fine, we're still working on this one. So I'm going to do the same thing that I showed you earlier. Actually, albeit on the wrong component, that's fine. And that was to do the trick with putting the tweezers in underneath, bending it over like that. It's fine if it's bent over, it's not going to cause any problems for anything. I'm just going to probe that one last time because that's really interesting, because you can see from this leg to this component there should be continuity, but there's not. If I wedge it into the PCB track there is, but there's not from that leg, so that's definitely could be a gotcha. Scrape away like I showed you earlier. Scrapey scrapey, scrapey scrapey, catchy monkey. Gorgeous. Copper, nice. Get in there again with your iron. So that one, this is TR9, and the one I was looking at was TR8, so it'd be nice to know what TR8 and 9 do. So this was actually the leg that wasn't connected to anything from underneath, so that definitely needs to be through like that. Gonna briefly apply power just off camera, see if anything bursts into life. Nothing. Nothing has burst into life. So we need to flip it around now and look at the TR8 from underneath. So there's a lot of back and forth on this, you might have noticed. So TR8 is under here. It's interesting because there's a bubble here in the PCB. It's hard to sort of see. I'm going to try to zoom in, but you can just about see it. There is a bubble there. It's delaminated, and that's not a nice thing to see. But we have these solder points there. I'm going to just wick those away and have a look. Let's see what's underneath this solder. So you can see that one's not connected to anything. We've got a bit of... well, you could see if I had the camera on it, and then we're going to do the same. So it looks like this component is exclusively soldered from the top. So we need to make sure this has got three nice connections on the top, looking after it. TR8, and that was the one actually, if you recall, that I did mention we needed to get nicely soldered from the top. So I'm gonna just hit it again. See, I held the soldering on there, iron on there, just a few moments. Just wanted to make sure that is extra good. So let's try it. That one's good. Follow the track round to that pin. That one's good. That one's good. So that component is happy. Oh, I do apologise. The camera seems to have totally freaked out at that point. So I'm just going to apply some power. Yeah, still no spectrum-y looking signals on anything, unfortunately. It's always a bit disappointing, and I'm noticing my power supply's got a significant current drop. I know it's only a 1 amp though. I'm running a bit of a lightweight power supply on this because I didn't want to cook anything, and it's got a meter on it. It might well need that extra power actually just to get this fired up. But that's that component check, TR7, it's looking good, it doesn't look molested. So I think that's probably the end of part 1 of my analysis of this board, of Chinny's board, but let's see, we'll persevere in the next time round and see what we can see. Hope this has been of some use to you. Please comment down below if you've got any ideas on what the problem is and where I should be looking. Please like, subscribe and share if you're that way inclined, and as ever, thank you for watching.